Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Juwan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.
Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Juwan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.
Good evening. This is Akeem Holmes from Home Team Sports TV, where we have your visiting George Washington Patriots, defending state champions, versus the Washington Patriots of Washington High School. My name is Akeem Holmes, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lori Leigh Bandage from Jefferson High School, the two sports star. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, no complaints. Lori Leigh, so you know the kids from Washington High School. Who is someone from Washington High School that you're excited about watching play today?
Definitely their keeper, Erica. She is really good, like excellent. I think she can go really far in soccer. Chloe Miller's also very strong. And yeah.
So, luckily, I think you guys play George Washington tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of scouting in between to see what the defending champions are bringing to the table. Is there anyone that you might have researched prior to this game that you're interested in seeing that might have an issue or might have a say in how they cover you tomorrow?
I haven't done any research, but I'm pretty sure other people on my team have. Well, they know a lot of the other girls on that team from like ODP and travel soccer, stuff like that. So I think it'll be a good game. They know some of the players, and I think it'll be a good game. Either way it goes.
In the first game, there's always a lot of opening jitters. Typically, even if a team may be more talented than another team, that first game is the game they could possibly steal. Is there anything that you do for that first game to help get the nervousness out, refocus, and lock in?
Well, this year I think it helps. We had a scrimmage before their first game, which helped get the whole team's nerves out. But I think it's important to just relax and not overthink the game too much, because just do everything you've been doing in practice, because we've been having 2 days to prepare, and I think we're ready. So
it's really about trusting the process.
Yeah.
So first, what I want to do is I want to say thank you to our sponsors. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. The Charlestown Veterans Fire Department, definitely greatly appreciate your sponsorship. Catro Law, Goose Head Insurance by Neil Powell, Quintez McDonald Gibson at Integrity Mortgage. We really want to thank you guys. Cheryl Yates at ERA Realty. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible to bring these games to the community so that everyone, no matter where you live, where you stay, can see their grandkids, their kids, friends, family, whatever it may be, perform on the field. So we thank you guys. We're highly grateful. So we will go through the George Washington Lady Patriots roster. We have starter Jessica Repetto, senior. We have Chloe Miller, senior forward. We have Riley Stoudemire, forward, sophomore. Peyton Willingham, defender, sophomore. Angela Galippo, defense. She is a junior. We have Amanda Tabor, sophomore, forward. Morgan Cantley, center field. Midfielder, senior. Megan Cantley, midfield. She's a sophomore. Kendall Atobi, defender, senior. Paige Herfruth, defender, junior. And Erica Schnabel, defender. Well, actually the keeper, and she is a sophomore. So we're getting ready for the action. Lori Leigh, is there a pace that you would like to see Washington bring today that can help them be more successful versus obviously a very talented juggernaut in George Washington?
I just hope that they try to keep possession. I think that'd be key for them. And obviously very fast pace towards the offensive side and just keep things held in defense. So that'd be good for them.
Yeah, and keeping possession, obviously, the more possession and pressure you put on a team, the more it will affect the stamina because it puts, like you said, that pressure, obviously has you at a higher energy level. Is that something that you find that helps you out with your speed from track to put pressure on the opposing team by always being a threat to get behind them and put the ball in it?
Yeah, I really like rushing and pushing forward. That's one of my favorite things to do. But I also think it's important to slow down. Oh, that was a close one.
And see,
yeah.
That's pressure right there.
Yeah.
Well, we already have our Patriots putting the pressure on George Washington And a strong move by the goalie came out aggressively to cover the ball up and actually put an end to that threat. But obviously, it bodes well for Washington to already crack that defense a little bit. Next time, hopefully, they'll be able to, put the ball in the net. Goalkeeper kicks the ball out of bounds. It will be Washington's ball. Quick turnaround and get the ball back inside. Ball stolen by George Washington. George Washington having the pressure. So, Lori Lake, what style of defense is Washington employing right now?
I think they're in a 4-3-4. I'm not really sure.
It looks like a more like a 4-2-5. But I could be wrong.
I'm honestly not really sure.
Obviously, we'll be able to tell more once they reset and they get back into their spots. Is there a particular formation that you prefer?
I played a 4-3-4 for all my high school years, so that's my preferred. Yeah, just because I like the way that you can connect so many passes throughout the midfield and stuff. So yeah.
Is there a typical formation that's set to get a little bit more offense? Maybe if you're down by a goal or two, put some pressure on the opposing team?
There are, but we don't do that because we have both of our wings push up and back, so we can be offensive as much as we are defensive. So as long as everyone's doing what they're doing, we can be equal both ways.
All right, Lorelai, sorry. My apologies.
You're good.
Washington with the possession again. So far in the game, Washington has maintained possession pretty strongly for the first 4 minutes. Washington thought they were getting the ball. The ball has been given possession by the referee to George Washington. Pressure put on by Chloe Miller. I like how aggressive Washington's being right now. They're not waiting back. They're actually coming and trying to take the game to George Washington to establish a little bit of confidence in themselves that they can compete versus the state's best.
I agree.
George Washington putting the pressure on Washington's defense. Ball stolen by number 23, Megan Cantley, the sophomore. Are there players on Washington that you might have played with that were on your club team?
So I stopped playing club when I started doing travel track, but I used to play with Chloe Miller, Lauren Schwartz, Morgan Cantley, and I think that's everyone. But yeah, they were my first travel team I've ever played with.
What was the name of your travel team? Give them a little plug.
What were we? I think we were Epic Surge. Yeah, that's it. But most of the girls I used to play travel with are on my high school team now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm hearing that this year you guys have a championship or bust mentality. Am I putting a little bit too much pressure?
No, I think that. I think we put too much pressure on ourselves a majority of the time, but I feel like if we stay positive, we can go farther than we think we can. So yeah.
And that's always the main thing for any athlete. Actually, not even just athlete, person, and period. To have confidence in yourself, always believe, and like I said, you believe it, you can achieve it. You put the effort into it. And I think that's what you were speaking to earlier when you were speaking of how you can deflect being nervous if you trust the work you put in outside of the game. Then it makes it easier in these situations.
Oh, that's a good save.
A good save by the goalie for Washington. So each team has had one possession to where they put pressure on the goal, and the goalkeepers have passed that test. Washington's putting pressure back on. It's a good pass. Good pass to number 18, Amanda Tabor. She tries to cross it, but the ball is deflected by George Washington. Today's game is brought to you by the Charlestown Volunteer Fire Department. George Washington takes over. Ball out of bounds back to Washington. Quickly in to number 26, Kendall Atobi. To number 5, Chloe Miller. Deflected out by George Washington. It will be Washington ball. We will have an early substitution. Number 15, Angela Gallipo, will be substituted out for number 25, Sarah Slagle. That's interesting. Now, Lorelai, I'm going to ask you a question. In high school soccer, are you allowed to substitute back in, or once you sub out, are you out for the rest of the game?
No, you can sub back in if you need a quick breather or anything. You can go right back in after you come out.
Okay.
There's no rules or anything.
So that's a little bit different than the professional game. When
Yeah.
you get subbed out, you're out for the game. Now, do you think that might have a little bit due to it being a little bit warm today? Do you think that could be the issue, or more so it's a first game and obviously fitness might not be where it may be towards the end of the season?
Yeah, definitely. That's probably something that happens. Also gets really hot, and it's really hot on the turf.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
And that's had to be an adjustment for you. Your first 2 years were on grass, and then last year and this year will be on turf. Is that something that you picked up quickly last year, that the heat on the turf was a lot higher than it was on the grass?
I honestly didn't think about it that much because I was just excited to have turf because the grass would get really muddy and it would be really hard to move through. And the turf is really nice, so I would prefer turf over grass any day.
I had to play on that field for football, and by mid-season, the field is just torn up.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely the turf at Jefferson High School. Thank you to the community for allowing the team and the high school to get the turf for both high schools. So the game is starting to settle down a little bit more, and George Washington, the pressure George Washington is putting on Washington has definitely stepped up. Great defense by Washington High School. George Washington will take a corner kick. Now for corner kicks, is there particular things that your coaches look for just to make sure that it doesn't happen? Obviously, you don't want the ball to get in front of the net, but are there other little things within the soccer nuance that their coaches try to prepare you guys for to defend the corner kick?
It's all about marking players, making sure everyone's marked, and making sure the ball doesn't get in the net clearly.
Yeah. And obviously, you want to keep your body on maybe their tallest player, most athletic.
Yeah, that's definitely something.
Out on George Washington.
That would be an
Washington.
offsides.
It was offsides.
Yes, it was an offsides.
So it's something I had to, I got from the little time my son played soccer and obviously playing the video game. I'm not going to lie to you. Offsides is when a player goes past the normal line and they're not allowed to go across that line until that line continues to move forward.
So the line of defense, if the offensive player goes behind them and the ball is played to them, that's offside.
And that's exactly why we had Lorelai here today. She's going to teach us some things. She's going to teach me some things. You're never too old to learn. Even though I'm probably 20 years older than her, she's teaching me new things today. So offsides on George Washington gives Washington the possession. Washington has the ball at midfield. Kick to number 18, Amanda Tabor. She crosses. Good defense by Eli Creamer. By Ellie. Well, actually, Ellie Creamer is for Washington. My apologies. It's good defense by George Washington to stop Ellie Creamer. And they quickly advance the ball up the field. Good defense by Kendall. I love the communication from the defenders. So for the people at home, if you guys can hear that the communication by the defenders of Washington has been amazing. Washington with possession.
You gotta learn not to move that camera when you get a shot. Leave it there. Keep it right there, Dylan. And go back and forth. Your movements are Dylan.
George Washington with a punt.
Loosen your tripod up so it ain't so stiff.
Well, quickly up the field. Wow, that was dangerous. The deflection actually turned into a shot on goal. Erica Schnabel kicks the ball off the George Washington defender. It will be Washington ball. We will have 2 substitutions for Washington. Number 4, Journey Robel, will come in for number 18, Amanda Tabor. And Journey is a freshman, quickly indoctrinated into high school soccer. Different level of physicality when you go from club ball to high school. You know, you're 14 years old, maybe going against an 18-year-old or, you know, a late birthday kid who might turn 19 towards the end of the season. I think the referee got confused on that one. He pointed in 3 different directions. But it would be George Washington ball with 26 minutes and 14 seconds left in the first half. Good communication by the goalie, Erica Schnabel. So have you ever tried to see how far you could punt a ball?
Me?
Yes.
I've tried, but more as like a joke. I would never be a keeper. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah. It's a different mindset. I think it's just like a football player who only wants to play defense. A defender, your mentality is not worried about being the person in the newspaper the most. You're worried about stopping that person. I think that's a different mindset as opposed to, obviously, everyone likes to score. An errant pass gives George Washington in possession. Great hustle by number 26, the senior, Kendall Watobi. That could have been dangerous. George Washington has taken over the pressure offensively after the first 4 or 5 minutes. I'll tell you what, Journey has some speed.
She does.
It would be Washington's ball, and that's all based off of the hustle from the freshman. Passed inside, but we have no one inside to put the pressure and score off the deflection, and it is easily gobbled up by the George Washington keeper. And she punts the ball 50 yards down the field with ease. Possession taken by Washington, number 20, Ella Miller. Quickly knocked out of bounds by George Washington. We'd like to take this time to speak on our sponsors. Our game day sponsor, Charlestown Volunteer Fire Department. K-Tro Law, who will be our post-game show and player of the game. Goosehead Insurance by Neil Powell. Quintez McDonald Gibson at Integrity Mortgage. And Cheryl Yates at ERA Realty. George Washington putting pressure on the Washington defense, and the ball is quickly deflected out. We will have another substitution. Number 7, Riley Stoudemire will be substituted out. Can't see the numbers from here, but once we can, we will give her a shout out. Ella Miller to Kendall Toby. The ball is stolen by George Washington. Stolen back by Washington and stolen back by George Washington. Shot on goal. Beautiful save by Erica Schnabel. That was a good shot on goal. So, Laura Live, as you've seen, the first 5 minutes, Washington controlled possession, but the last 5 to 8 minutes.
Oh.
The last 5 to 8 minutes, George Washington has definitely been more aggressive. But the freshman, Journey Vrobel, she's very fast. You can tell that she's changing the game with her speed. It's a good change of pace by the coach. George Washington with possession. Great defense by Washington. And Washington will gain possession. So what are you most excited about tomorrow, and what are your goals for your senior season?
For tomorrow, I just hope that we don't get in over our heads or too stressed out about the game. That's for tomorrow. Senior goals, I just want this season to go, like I said earlier, very positively. Just want to make this last season of soccer, for at least my life, a good experience. And I think, especially having George Washington as our first game, it's a good experience for everyone on the team. So, yeah.
That's definitely, it's always about the team, team success trumps individual success. But I always feel like if all the individuals work hard to be as successful as they can be, obviously the team success will come with that. So within the last 3 or 4 minutes, George Washington has had 3 shots on goal. What did you see that may have changed from the Washington defense, or what George Washington is doing that's actually putting more pressure on Washington right now?
I see that George Washington is taking more shots, which is very important. They're just a little far out, making it easier for Erica to catch them. And as for the defense, they're not looking bad. It's just George Washington's putting a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Look, there's another shot there.
Well, like you said, the shots on goal haven't been they haven't been shots that will make you stress a little. All the shots, like you said, have been a little bit easier for her to stop. Do you feel like it's because they were having to do it from so far out, or miss kicks maybe because it's the beginning of the season and they're not, in mid-season form?
It could vary. They have been taking them pretty far out. But it's good to take a shot regardless of how far out you are, because you never know what could happen. But I think as long as they keep taking the shots and putting the pressure on, one could go in.
Yeah,
so.
eventually.
Yeah.
Because they've definitely had possession the last 5 to 10 minutes. They've dominated possession.
Yeah.
So Washington's definitely going to have to make some adjustments, to kind of take a little bit of this pressure off.
Make sure you get the whole field, yo. I don't see the ball, man.
Do you guys have any freshmen that will play a big role for you guys this year?
Any freshmen? We have two doubled freshmen. One of them's a keeper. Her name's Michaela. She's solid.
Okay.
Our other, she plays midfield. Her name's Milena. I think they're good parts of the team. I'm happy they came out. Yeah. And as for the other freshmen on JV, our JV team is solid. They're gonna have a really good season this year.
And that's like the most important aspect is you have to build, through your program, and obviously, with you guys being a good team with some seniors, allowing the freshmen to be able to develop on the JV level and get maximum minutes is important to building that program at Jefferson High School. So last year, what was the split between you and Washington?
I honestly can't remember what the score was, but we had been undefeated against them the entire season, and then we lost in sectionals. Kind of stung, but it's just going to make us work even harder to get there this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's always tough, when you win those games in the regular season, and you realize in sectionals it's one and done.
It's always a rough game, Jefferson and Washington,
Yeah.
but it's good to watch.
And that rivalry is kind of what you wanted to see. Obviously, when they built the second high school in Jefferson County, you want to have obviously your normal rivals in the Berkeley County schools in Martinsburg and Hedgesville and Musselman, but to have as friendly of a rivalry as you can get with Jefferson and Washington. It also gives the residents of Jefferson County another game to get excited for. So I hope this year we can pack the stadium for everyone, and allow all the kids to be able to play in an intense atmosphere. Because sometimes the crowd can actually give you enough energy to give you that extra boost to do something great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Washington with possession. Ball stolen by George Washington. I was excited right there. I wanted to see what Journey could do. The speed for George Washington and continue to put pressure on Washington High School, but the ball is going out of bounds. And it will be Washington ball. We will have a substitution, the first substitution for George Washington. Lorelai, is there anything that you take from track and utilize it in soccer, or maybe even, try to teach your teammates so that they could, implement it into their training regiment?
Honestly, I don't. They're completely different sports to
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
I do take, of course, my speed to the soccer field, and I think that's really important. But it's also the running style that I use on a soccer field is different compared to when I run for track. So it's kind of complicated, but it works.
We have time. Explain the difference in how you run on a track. Obviously, I know with sprints and everything, it's maximum, from the beginning, whereas soccer, it has to be out throughout the duration of the game. So is it kind of like a similar analogy of saying sprint in cross country? Or
not necessarily. I do think that there's more endurance needed for soccer because track is just one quick sprint and then it's over. But soccer definitely needs more endurance, but it also needs that speed for quick turnovers. And also for soccer, I run with my arms out more because people are running at you. That doesn't happen in track. So it's just completely it's like different form. Same speed, but different form, if that makes sense.
Soccer, so obviously, soccer is a more physical sport. Do you lift extra, during soccer season to prepare for, some of the physicality of the season, or do you keep the same training regimen?
So our soccer team, we do true AP. We train with them. We do weights about twice a week. It's really important to be strong so you can hold your ground, especially with physicality and aggressiveness, because that's a very vital part of soccer. I wouldn't say it's different from track. Maybe I'll lift even more during track season,
Okay.
but I still think it's important for both seasons.
And do you guys lift all season, or do you stop once the season starts?
Um, no, we will still lift throughout the season and in off season too.
Awesome, awesome. And I think that's what I want to relay to the viewers who may not have reached the high school level yet. It's very important to be in the weight room when you're playing high school sports. It's no longer just natural ability. You have to put in the extra work to be one of the best in your state going forward. The shot on goal was deflected by Washington, and it will be George Washington ball on a corner kick. And I think that's the biggest adjustment that kids make coming from middle school to high school. It's no longer just going out on the field on your natural ability and being the best player. You have to lift weights. You have to change your body, become stronger, quicker, build your endurance up to play at the higher levels.
Yeah, I agree.
Ball deflected. Kicked out. Ball stolen by George Washington. I love the way George Washington plays. They play as a team. And even though right now, they haven't been able to, crack the great steel wall of Eric Schnabel, eventually, if Washington doesn't make an adjustment and take the pressure off of their defense, they could possibly wear down the freshman.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It was a real good idea. It just wasn't executed. I'm seeing the spacing. That, like Washington, sometimes it seems they get a little too cluttered up, and there's not a lot of spacing. And once someone does do something to potentially make the pass that can create an opening, they're all still close together, and they're not getting opportunities that George Washington has via spacing. The touch on that pass is a little too hard. And George Washington gets possession. $11 left in the first half. We have a 0-0 score at Washington High School. The ball past defender Kendall Toby, but she quickly gets ahead of George Washington's forward, and the ball will go to Washington High School. The hitter by number 20, Ellie Miller. You would have liked to see more Washington defenders down there putting pressure on to see if they could potentially take advantage of a turnover. But the strength of the George Washington defender fights off the strength of the freshman. George Washington throwing the ball in. Deflected by Journey. Hitter by Ellie Miller. Defender Kendall Toby. To number 9, Ellie Creamer. Deflected to George Washington. Good footwork. Even better pass by George Washington. And once again, George Washington is putting the pressure on Washington's defense. But an errant pass gives the possession back to Washington High School. Errant pass gives the ball back to George Washington. Beautiful footwork by George Washington. The ball is kicked in once again. She couldn't get enough power on it to put the pressure on the goalie, but that was probably the best footwork we've seen by individual all game. Ball kicked out by the freshman. The freshman played big minutes in this first half. She didn't start, but she's played the last 20 minutes of the game. Ball kicked down in the middle of the field. The freshman gets the ball. The touch was errant, and she didn't get to put the pressure on the defense like she wanted to. Ball stolen from number 27, Paige Herford. George Washington with the ball. Great defense by Kendall Toby. You see a lot of the George Washington offensive players stretching, hands on their knees. At what point in the season do you feel like that you're at your highest level of fitness? Is it towards the end of the season, middle of the season?
I would say middle of the season, just because it makes the end of the season. How do I explain this? I think the middle of the season I definitely feel the strongest, because then all my conditioning and training, it just feels like normal at that point. Towards the end of the season, I'm getting a little tired.
Yeah, you wear down a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm still feeling strong because it's the end of the season. Gotta keep pushing, but definitely in the middle of the season, I'd say.
It becomes a battle of attrition towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
That was a great play by number 5, Chloe Miller. She must have heard my comment about the footwork from the George Washington finish. She pulled some beautiful moves. The shot on goal was powerful. The goalkeeper bobbled the ball, but there was no one there to take advantage of the mishap. What do you think it will take from Washington to be able to crack this George Washington defense and get the ball into the net? Do you think it's going to take an individual play, or is it more so team play and eventually wearing them down will maybe get you a chance that you haven't gotten throughout the first?
I think if they would settle, that was a great shot.
That was definitely a great shot.
I think if they would settle the ball and get the little passes in more towards the goal, that would be ideal for them.
Okay. We're seeing the talent take over right now, where we're starting to see, after the little nervousness was out of the way, we're seeing great shots by both teams. It's making this game very exciting. To see the last 2 shots were very talented, very skilled, high skill level shots. George Washington once again with the ball on the Washington Patriots side of the field. I want to say in this first half, Erica has at least 10 saves.
Yeah. I like how George Washington's putting pressure on her.
Yes, they are. And they're forcing her to lock on. They're forcing her to lock in. But she's been up to the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
George Washington with the ball once again on the Washington side of the field. Quickly gobbled up by the goalkeeper, Erica Schnabel. A 40-yard boot. Quickly deflected by George Washington. George Washington once again on the attack. Washington with the deflection, the ball quickly kicked to midfield. George Washington kicks the ball back down, knocked away by Kendall Toby. Ball stolen by number 8, Kaylee Willingham. George Washington's speed is apparent when you see some of their players um, with possession of the ball. They have good body control, good foot control, and I think that's been the main thing that's allowed them to put a little bit more pressure on Washington as well. Is their faster players also have good touch with the ball?
And they work quickly together.
Yeah, they do. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first half. We have a 0-0 score. So what was that call, Lorelai? What was that call?
Um, I'm, I'm not sure. I kind of missed it. I didn't see a foul, though. Maybe it was a handball.
George Washington with the kick. It was actually a great corner kick, but there was no one there to get their body in the right place to be able to potentially hit that in. And Washington dodges another bullet. If you're a coach for George Washington, do you go into halftime? What do you say to your players? Do you go in there and say, hey, let's not change anything? Eventually, the ball will get into the net, or do you feel like there might be a philosophical change they need to make to be able to finally break through?
I feel like for George Washington, they're putting up a lot of shots, but see, like that, they're all a little too far out. So maybe if they also settle a little more, get closer in, that they could get it in. Maybe pass a little more, too. But I think they're doing pretty well.
To me, what it seems like, what's going to eventually happen is George Washington needs to have an offensive player down towards the goal to maybe get a deflection after the kick from 20 to 30 yards out. There's no one. They typically get one shot, and that's it.
Yeah. We haven't seen many crosses yet. It's just
No.
been one person. See, like that again. That was a good effort. But I haven't seen many crosses. Maybe they could play it out wide and then cross it in.
It seems like a little bit of one-on-one ball, a little bit. 1 minute and 24 seconds left in the first half. Erica is putting her name in the hat for early player of the game with her double-digit saves in the first half. Angela Gallipo quickly gets to the ball. Kick to number 5, Chloe Miller. Washington works a little too fast. Be George Washington ball.
I'm not sure what's going on.
38.2 seconds left in the first half. He's putting 1 minute and 36 seconds left on the clock. This is something you don't see every day. So they put another minute on the clock of extra time. George Washington with the ball stolen by number 20 for Washington, Ella Miller. Quickly taken by George Washington. Stolen by number 5, Chloe Miller. It'll be Washington's ball with 1 minute remaining in the first half after the extra minute of extra time. So in high school, if the game is at a tie at the end of the second half, do you guys quickly go to, is it penalty kicks or you guys have golden goal?
At the end of no. In regular season, no, you would just leave it at a tie. But in playoffs, like sectionals, regional states, it would be you add extra time first. You play for extra time. I think it's like 15 minutes, twice, and then if nothing happens there, then you go into PKs.
So you guys don't have PKs in the regular season?
Mm-mm. Well, unless there's a foul in the box. So, oh, that was close.
Ooh.
Yeah, if there were a foul in the box, then there would be a penalty kick. But that's all.
And that will be the half. At the half, we have the George Washington Patriots 0 and the Washington High School Patriots 0. We'll go to a quick commercial break and we'll come back for our halftime. So once again, we have George Washington 0, Washington High School Patriots 0. You are with Home Team Sports TV.
Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Juwan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Come on, Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.
And we're back at Washington High School, where we have a score of 0-0. The George Washington Patriots, obviously, Lorelei had a lot more possession in that first half. If you're the coach for Washington, what are you telling your players right now to potentially turn that tide so that you're the aggressor going into the second half?
I see from Washington that once they get the ball, they kind of just kick it up there. That might be what their coach is telling them to do, but I would say for them to settle more and keep on the possession, to actually know where they're going to play with the ball, pass to, so they can move forward. I also see that they seem to be, whenever the ball's on one side, they all just stay on one side. They don't spread out. I would definitely say to work on their spacing. But from a defensive standpoint, just to make sure George Washington, because from George Washington, one individual will press all for their defensive line. So definitely put pressure on that one person, because, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the same thing that you're seeing. And that's when, earlier in the game, I was talking about spacing. With George Washington, they have very talented players that can create, but they're not utilizing their teammates to potentially, make that strong pass or, be able to get that rebound off the deflection and put the ball in because they're playing that one-on-one, so to speak. Whereas on Washington, they're playing more team ball, but there's no spacing. Like you said earlier, everybody's on one side of the ball, maybe even watching, and being able to not get that one shot, to be able to get the ball in there. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll speak to some second half adjustments. Once again, this is Akeem Holmes with Lorelei Bandit from Jefferson High School. You are kicking it with the home team.
Everybody get 3 or 4 balls. She wants to be an influencer.
I'm Sarah Ward. I'm a senior this year and I play strike. My name's Chloe Miller. I'm a senior and I distribute, I shoot, I kind of do it all. I'm Jessica Repetto. I'm also an attacking midfielder, so I shoot, distribute the ball, and do the playmaking part of the game, and I'm a senior.
I'm Morgan Cantley. I'm a senior and I play holding midfield, so I distribute the ball, but it's more of a defensive position.
I'm Megan Cantley. I'm a sophomore and I'm a midfielder too. I play attacking and defense and sometimes out wing, which is like running up the field.
My name's Lauren Courts. I'm number 6. I'm a senior and I play defensive center mid. It's more of like a defensive role in the midfield. I stay right in front of the defenders and hold it down.
My name is Kenna Toby. I'm a senior and my position is left back, otherwise known as the defensive position. The defensive position is very important because you're the last line and you don't want anything being scored, so you just got to get the job done there.
I'm Jerry Broble. I'm a freshman. I play wing and I attack. Well, my mission doesn't attack.
My name is Alexa Wenner. I play midfield and I'm a freshman and my job is to distribute on the field.
My name's Erica Shirley. I'm a sophomore. Wing. Attack on the field. Attack on the field.
Can we tell the people to come out and support us?
And we are back at Washington High School, where we have the Washington High School Patriots 0, the George Washington Patriots 0. And Lorelei, when we were off air, we were talking about fitness and maybe seeing some players wear down. When you see Washington up, going through their routine, and you see George Washington continue to sit down, as a player, do you look at that and say, okay, you know what, maybe they might be a little bit tired, or is that something that you would normally see?
Definitely. It is still very early in the season, so it's very understandable for players to be tired quickly. But I do think that Washington started off very strong, and you could see they got tired as George Washington kept pushing. But yeah, definitely with halftime being a break, it'll definitely help them, and they'll probably push back up. So that's good for them.
So I'm going to say this, for the viewers at home, I want to apologize to Lorelei Bang It, and I've been saying her name incorrect for the whole cast. I said Lorelei. I said like 15 different pronunciations, and finally, I get a text from my brother. He's like, "Hey, get that name right, bro. Get that name right, bro." And I'm like, "Man, my bad. Lorelei Bang It."
There you go.
For everybody at home, my apologies to Mr. and Mrs. Bang It. I'll make sure I got it right for the rest of the show.
That's all right. You should hear my name whenever they do. Whenever they call us out. I hear 5 different names every season.
Yeah.
It's good though.
It's funny because I tell my wife of how my name was always butchered as a kid, and here I am butchering your name.
It's all right.
But we got it right now. So we are back after the 10-minute break. That's exactly. He was thinking of the JV time where it's actually 30-minute halves, where in varsity it is 40-minute halves. So Washington will go back to its original starting lineup. And I wonder if some of the substitutions were to keep some of their starters fresh for a push in the second half. Because Journey, she actually played the last 32 minutes of the first half. So we will see a little bit of the strategy going forward, if maybe that was something that the coach already had planned out to potentially have their starters be more fresh towards the end of the second half. And George Washington will have the ball. Washington coming out with a little bit more energy, attacking the defenders. The offensive players with the ball, but great pass by George Washington. Once again, has George Washington with the ball on Washington's side of the field, attacking. And the ball is kicked out to allow Washington to reset their defense and prepare for this George Washington attack. Now, has there been rankings that have come out preseason for girls soccer?
No, there have not been. I don't think so. Honestly, I haven't looked. But usually that does not happen for soccer, at least. Oh.
Strong attack by George Washington. A great defense by Kendall Atobi, who is also another player that's flashed today. She has been the goalkeeper's best friend as a last line defense. Very physical player. And George Washington with the ball inside.
Oh, good
save.
A
great save. That was what I have been talking about, the deflection off of a kick that George Washington might eventually be able to get it in. But Erica has been amazing today. I hope my son Janady is watching Erica in goal. That's what he plays. He's a goalkeeper. She's played great goalie today. Washington with the ball. Stolen by George Washington. And the ball is kicked away by Kendall Toby. Great defense by number 3, Jessica Repetto, the senior. Possession kicked away by Washington, quickly thrown in by George Washington. Would like to thank our cameraman, Kevin Brewster, Dylan Smith, our producer, Harry Brown, and quality team supervisor, H.D. Franklin, for the production. It is Akeem Holmes from Home Team Sports with Laura Lai. Bang it. See, I got it right.
There you go.
Bringing the production of the George Washington defending state champions versus the Washington High School Patriots of Jefferson County. Great defense by Washington. We'll have the ball quickly going back. Actually, we will have a corner kick. We would like to thank our sponsors, Charlestown Volunteer Fire Department, Cheryl Yates at ERA Realty, Catro Law. Once again, the ball is in. It's in the. Oh. George Washington once again has the ball in the trouble zone for Washington, and the goalkeeper Erica Snabble shuts the door once again. Once you get in that box, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And George Washington has been in that box a little too much for the liking of the Washington Patriot fans. Great defense by number 18, Amanda Tabor. And the ball will go to Washington. George Washington has picked the intensity up a little bit. What are they doing different? That's allowing them to get shots on goal, unlike in the first half where everything was coming from 30 yards out. Now they're in the box getting those shots.
They're getting a lot. They've already gotten 2 corners. Very lucky for them. It's given them a good opportunity to get in the box. And they've been close both times, so hoping to see more of that from them. But once again, Erica, it's hard to get past her. So.
She's tough. Erica, she's real tough. To be able to handle that pressure that they've put on within the last 30 minutes of the game has been amazing.
Yeah.
It takes a high level of concentration because there's a lot of bodies around her when they're getting these chances the last 2 or 3 times. George Washington once again putting pressure on. Quickly gobbled up by Erica. She punched the ball 40 yards down the field. Great touch and kick.
Oh, that's a good ball.
Number 7 for Washington, Riley Stoudemire with the ball. She crosses, but once again, Lorelai, there's no one who's on. No one is there for the cross for Washington. I would like to see a little bit more offensive-minded aggression from Washington High School because there's never anyone there when they cross the ball, and that's their chance to get that shot on goal. George Washington with possession. The touch and control.
Oh.
Good deflection by Kendall. I'll tell you, Kendall has been very active. I think her and Erica are the reasons why right now Washington is not down at least 3-0.
Yeah.
Ball quickly stolen by George Washington. We will finish thanking our sponsors, Neil Powell at Goosehead Insurance and Quintez McDonald Gibson at Integrity Home Mortgage. Another shot, this one from 15 yards out, quickly gobbled up by Erica. But we haven't seen Washington have a shot on goal maybe since the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Washington with possession. And the ball out of bounds. We would also like to thank our sponsor, HG at HG Barbecue. Takes all your catering needs, especially with football season, college football season, high school football season, high school soccer, girls soccer. HG can cater. I can personally attest that my personal favorite is the chicken wings. HG gets down with them chicken wings. I want to say my family's personal favorite, probably the cornbread. I don't get me and them. As soon as I go to work, I come back home. My son's eating all of them. Washington with the ball. Miscue by the George Washington defender. Almost turns into disaster, but quickly saved by her teammate, and Washington with the ball on their side of the field. I kind of see a little bit that George Washington's players are a little bit more physical.
I think there's physicality coming from both sides, but definitely with the possession going towards George Washington, they've shown more aggression.
Great defense by number 23 from Washington, Megan Cantley. Momentarily gets Washington possession, but they quickly lose it. Stolen by number 7, Riley Stoudemire. Back to number 23, Megan Cantley. To number 3, Jessica Repetto, stolen. And the ball stolen by George Washington. And once again, they're putting pressure on the Washington defense. Great body control by George Washington. Ball knocked away.
Oh,
wow! Wow! A beautiful shot on goal by George Washington from 30 yards out. Finally.
That was a good shot.
Finally breaks through, and George Washington takes the 1-0 lead.
Wow, that was nice.
That was beautiful.
That was nice.
That was actually something that you would see professionally. Now Washington will now be forced to become a little bit more aggressive, and that might not be a bad thing. And she's been the main aggressor for George Washington all game. And I was about to say that I've seen her have possession, but she hasn't taken any shots on goal. But,
that was a great ball.
And oh my goodness,
that was good defense.
She's a very special player. I mean, she's been very dominant on the offensive side of the ball. So congratulations, Jaren, on that beautiful shot. Washington quickly puts pressure on the ball, but the ball goes out of bounds. So we have our first goal for George Washington. They're up 1-0 with 28 minutes and 37 seconds left in the second half. It would
They're
have
giving
taken
her so much space.
It would have taken someone
Ooh.
6'5" to be able to block that shot.
Yeah. Oh, good defense.
And as you can see, George Washington is finally breaking down this Washington defense right now. They're getting, more and more easier chances at goals. And an errant kick by George Washington once again in the box. The Washington defense is spread out. At what point do you change your formation or do you make a substitution, potentially get some fresh bodies in on the defensive side of the field?
That would definitely be up to the coach, but I would say it'd be risky to change formation at this point. They're already into the game, so changing formation would be, in my opinion, a bad decision. But I don't know. I feel like Washington's defense isn't stepping as much as they could be, but also George Washington's offense is pushing a lot. So it's tough.
George Washington once again with the ball. They're playing more as a team this half as well. And that's something that we discussed at halftime. Once they play as a team and they utilize their team speed, their team physicality, they were going to eventually break through. And we have our first defensive sub for Washington High School. That would be number 22, Amari Webster. She is the daughter of Anshea Webster. George Washington once again with possession on their side of the field. And great defense by George Washington quickly shuts down Washington's offensive possession. A little bit of Jurassic Park sounds by the announcer. The second shot on goal. That was a beautiful shot.
It's Chloe.
By number 5, Chloe Miller. We need more of that if Washington is going to be able to get the equalizer and tie the game. Amari Webster with great defense. Quickly to number 23, Megan Cantley. To number 26, Kendall Toby, who's played amazing defense. We'd like to thank our sponsor, VFW Post 33522, for their great sponsorship for Home Team Sports TV. We are grateful. And it's because of you we're bringing this live action from Washington High School, where your Washington Patriots are facing the George Washington Patriots, with George Washington up 1-0 with an amazing goal from Jaron of George Washington, who's been putting a lot of pressure on this Washington defense. Right now she's getting a breather. With 23 minutes left and 27 seconds left in the second half. At what point do you maybe change your formation or get a couple more offensive players into the game to try to get that equalizer?
I definitely think that Washington should start pressing offensively more. You can see Journey's back in now. I think she would be great for them. Great speed at top. But I do think that they can move more as a unit, more offensively. I feel like they're playing more defensive-minded, which
Yes.
isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if they want to get on the board, it'd be beneficial for them.
Yes, and that's what I see. I felt like maybe potentially the strategy was, George Washington's attack is so vicious that they wanted to play more defensive minded. But once they get that one goal to go ahead, at some point you have to become the aggressor and flip that switch to where you put the pressure on them. Personally, I've always felt like you wear a team down more by putting the pressure on them as opposed to sitting back on your heels and letting them continue to press you.
It's definitely a lot of pressure considering it is George Washington. So maybe that's a mindset thing, thinking they need to be more defensive considering it is George Washington. But which is completely understandable. But they should still be pressing up.
The ball stolen by George Washington. I think you're seeing a couple players tire out a little bit for the Washington High School Patriots. Ball quickly turning to Journey. Stolen by George Washington. George Washington will have the ball, possession on their side of the field once again. And Kendall Toby kicks the ball out of bounds to allow her teammates to get back and set the defense up. Substitute for George Washington. We see the coaches getting fresh bodies into the game. It's cooled down a little bit at the field. So now it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day for soccer. Nice breeze.
That's good defense.
We'll see Journey's speed kick in. And the ball kicked out by the goalkeeper. Kicked out of bounds to allow her defense to set back up. Ball thrown in and quickly hit it out. We'd like to thank Cheryl Yates of ERA Realty at 304-261-6109. HG's Barbecue, Soul Food and Catering at 816-438-1101. Neil Powell at Down Home Insurance. Stay in the game with Neil for all your insurance needs at 202-431-6896. And Quintez McDonald Gibson at Integrity Home Mortgage. We'd also like to give a sponsor for VFW Post 3522 and our post-game show and player of the game sponsor, K-Tro Law. Thank you guys for your sponsorship and allowing for Home Team Sports TV into your living rooms. And a great volley by Journey Roble and a missed kick by number 7, Riley Stoudemire, thwarts Washington's best attempt to equalize to date. And Journey's been a player that's she's standing out. Kendall Toby is standing out, and obviously Erica is standing out. But the speed and athleticism of Journey has been difficult for George Washington to handle, and she's only a freshman. So we're going to hear a lot about her going forward. George Washington ball. and the ball kicked out by George Washington. Amari Webster, the sophomore, has come in, and she's kind of slowed George Washington's pressure down that they were picking up the first 15 to 20 minutes of the second half. We have a 1-0 score. George Washington is up with 17 minutes left and 52 seconds left in the second half. We'd like to thank Harry Brown for being the producer for the show, H.G. Franklin, the quality control supervisor, Kevin Brewster for manning the camera, Dylan Smith for manning the camera, and Junaidi Amir Ahmed for being here today to allow us to broadcast this game from Washington High School. Washington High School loses possession. Quickly gained back by Kendall Toby. She wants her players to push up the field. Back to Kendall. Ball stolen by George Washington. Stolen back by Washington High School to Riley Stoudemire. And the ball stolen by George Washington after some fancy footwork, but it is not to be today. And once again, Jaren is powerful, speed, and we have a foul call. Lorelai, was that a foul? Was it offsides?
It was a foul. A little too much pushing there.
Do you feel like towards the end of the season they allow a little bit more physicality, maybe in the playoffs, or is it typically called like this all game, all year?
I would definitely say it varies based on the ref. It does tend to be more physical in any sectional game or regional game, but that's just a given. I would say that refs do tend to let off a little more for those games, but they definitely keep the calls pretty close.
Do you think that rivalry games impact how the game is called?
Yeah. It's always more physical for rivalry games. That's just always how it is. And then calls called either way, it can rub any team the wrong way. So it'll make physicality even more of a factor. But I would say that it definitely just bases on the ref. The physicality is going to be there either way. So it just depends on how the ref decides to call it.
Yeah, and I think that's in any sport. Obviously, that changes. The reason why I asked is it just didn't look like much to me. So I just didn't know if maybe that was something that they just wanted to keep control of the game, make sure it didn't get out of hand physically, or it's something that's typically normally called in high school soccer.
Yeah.
And Jaren gets behind the defense, and once again, Erica Schnabel with the amazing save. Outside of that one amazing shot that I think it had everyone in the stadium in awe, Erica has been a wall.
She has been.
That they have not been able to get past. And Journey, she's put the pressure on George Washington that eventually she may be able to break through and get this game tied up. Speed and athleticism shows in any sport. It's just the great common denominator of most great players. And Washington has been a little bit more aggressive on offense these last 10 minutes. They might not have scored yet, but they've been a lot more aggressive as compared to the previous 35 minutes of the game.
I think they're holding up really well, Washington. They're keeping up, and it's good. They haven't been let down by the one goal, which is, it happens. But I'm glad that they're keep pushing.
I think sometimes a little bit of like a negative result, like them getting that goal, And forcing you to become aggressive shows what kind of talent level you actually have. They're not playing passive right now. They're actually playing aggressive, and it's actually been a better game to watch since George Washington has scored.
I agree.
Great footwork by George Washington, but once again blocked by Erica. Ball punted. Aggressive by Journey Vrobel. The great hitter by number 5, Chloe Miller. And the errant pass, and the ball goes out of bounds. It's like to see a little bit more touch on that pass to allow the Washington forward to be able to gain control. We have a injury timeout for George Washington. We will take this time to once again thank our sponsors. VFW Post 3522, Cheryl Yates at ERA Realty, HD Franklin at HG Barbecue, Neil Powell at Down Home Insurance, and Catro Law. We're right back to action, and George Washington is once again attacking at that Washington half of the field. We only have 11 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the game, and Washington is down 1-0. At a certain point, do they change the formation to get more people pushed towards the offensive side of the field, or do you stay in the same formation the whole game?
I believe they stay in their same formation the entire game. They might just want to change their mindset to be more offensive compared to defensive, but they'll definitely just keep the same formation.
Ball stolen by Washington. Look at the aggression by the George Washington defender. The ball is kicked down, and Journey Vrobel.
Oh. It was a great play by the keeper.
It was a great play by the keeper. She came out, didn't allow her to get comfortable, didn't allow her to get the ball and be able to control herself and get a good shot on goal. We've seen amazing goalkeeping this game. So that's one thing to take away from both teams, is that they both have high-level goalkeepers. We have a substitute for Washington. Number 13, Sarah Ward, will go off the field. Number 23, Megan Cantley, will return to action. The corner kick.
That was a good ball.
Kicked a little too hard, which doesn't allow Washington to get any shots on goal. Will be George Washington ball as Washington's defenders press up. Washington getting instructions from their coach, imploring them to watch the outside of the field. The speed of George Washington continues to cause problems for the Washington High School Patriots. Jeez. I love the aggression from the Washington High School Patriot defenders.
Oh, me too. They're holding really well.
They're highly aggressive. They're fit. They're physical. Even when they don't get the ball from you, they're putting their body on you and wearing you down. Just like that play right there. Just her continuing to stay up on the defender forced Kendall to get rid of the ball. Washington once again with the ball inside the box, and a great cross by Washington And great defense again by the goalkeeper. Eight minutes and 14 seconds remaining in the game. We have George Washington leading 1-0. So what time does George Washington play Jefferson tomorrow?
We play them at 10 in the morning tomorrow, and then our JV will play after us. Yeah, bright and early, but I would prefer that than at night. Oh, wow.
That was an acrobatic hitter from 35 yards. She's giving it everything that she has, and you could just tell that she's a very high energy level player. Journey Verbal, the freshman. Now, is 10 o'clock the earliest game of the season for you guys, or do you typically have games early on Saturdays?
I haven't really looked at the times. We only have a couple Saturday games, but I would say that most of the time they do start at 10.
Okay.
I feel like we've had one that started earlier, but yeah.
And playing a game for a while, having a game back-to-back and it being at 10 o'clock in the morning, what kind of advantage do you feel like that could give you guys with them being in a tough game versus Washington and then having to turn back around and play you guys at 10 o'clock in the morning? Is that something that you guys will say, hey, maybe we can press them early and potentially steal a goal or two?
I think I go both ways. They could either be really tired and sore, because games make you sore. They could be tired and sore from today and feel tired and sluggish, especially in the morning, or they could feel fired up after playing today. So it just depends on how their whole team is feeling. But considering it's George Washington, it'll definitely be hard to keep up with them, but I think that we can do it. And we can definitely use the advantage of their tiredness from today to going on tomorrow.
Now, is this a home and away series, or you just play them one time?
We will just play them one time, unless we get to states and such, but this is a one-time thing.
Washington with possession. In the George Washington half of the field with 5 minutes left in the game. Amari Webster kicks the ball to number 7, Riley Stoudemire. And the speed from Journey Verbal puts a little bit of pressure on the George Washington defense, but the ball goes out of bounds. And we're seeing tired legs right now. A little bit of standing around on both ends. Four minutes and 45 seconds left in the game. George Washington leading 1-0. Number 20, Ella Miller with the ball in the middle of the field. Shot on goal, deflected.
Good save.
And a great play by the goalie. Deflects the ball and keeps George Washington in the lead. This corner kick could be the best opportunity for Washington to tie this game up. And Journey Verbal with the hitter.
It was close.
Over the field goal post as the crowd all is in agony. George Washington with the ball. Ball stolen by Kendall Otobi. In the last 20 minutes, would you say that Washington has been a little bit more aggressive? We're seeing the ball on their side of the field a lot more as opposed to the first 30, 35 minutes of the half. It's looking like Washington may have to take a page out of George Washington's book and get a great shot from 20 to 25 yards out for them to be able to get that equalizer. Because anything close to the box, they gobble that up.
Yeah, it's true.
2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the second half. Washington with the steal. Kendall Otobi with the ball. To number 5, Chloe Miller. To number 4, Johnny Robel. Quickly stolen by George Washington. Stolen back by number 21, Morgan Cantley, the captain of Washington High School Lady Soccer. The captains for Washington Lady Patriots Soccer are number 3, Jessica Repetto, number 5, Chloe Miller, and number 21, Morgan Cantley. Congratulations, ladies, on your captaincy. 1 minute and 5 seconds left in the half. You see the urgency from the Washington defenders. Washington quickly trying to thwart the George Washington attack. George Washington quickly down the field. Beautiful pass and touch, but the ball stolen by Kendall Otobi, and she kicks the ball out of bounds to allow her defenders to be able to come back and reset. 20 seconds left in the game. George Washington playing keep away. 5 seconds left. And that is the final. The final from Washington High School. You have your George Washington Patriots 1 and the Washington Patriots 0. We will take a quick commercial break and come back for the post-game show sponsored by Catro Law. Once again, George Washington 1, Washington High School 0. You are now kicking it with the home team. We'll be back after a quick commercial break for the post-game show sponsored by Catro Law.
Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Jawan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Come on, Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.
We are back at Washington High School for the Catro Law post-game show. We have your Catro Law players of the game. We have Shelby Tharp and Miss Madison Rothwell from George Washington Patriots. Madison kicked an amazing shot from around 35 yards out that even on camera I had to say, wow. Have you ever done anything like that before, Madison, or is that,
Not that far out.
Yeah, I said it was going to take someone 6'10" to be able to stop that shot. What was your thinking at that point that said, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna take this chance?
Well, it was in the second half, and if I didn't take it, I didn't know if anyone else would. So it was like a make it or it misses, you have another opportunity kind of situation.
And you, Miss Shelby, the goalkeeper, going into the last 15 minutes of the game, I say the goalkeepers are the players of the game. Erica from the other team, and she blocked around 25 shots. You had it a little bit easier at the first part of the game, but towards the end of the game, Washington put a little bit more pressure on you. What was your thinking towards the end of the game? Did you know that the pressure was going to push up?
I did. Normally, if the score is only 1-0, the other team is going to do everything they can to get back another goal to tie it up. And I saw towards about the last 25 minutes that the other team was really, really fighting, and I knew I was going to have some harder shots, and I knew that everyone all over the field was tired, so I was going to have to work a little harder.
Yeah, a couple of those shots towards the end, I mean, you had to make diving efforts, and if it wasn't for those tremendous efforts, yeah, obviously the game could have went a little bit different. Is there anything that you say to your teammates to kind of implore them on, especially this early in the season, where your fitness is not as high as it's going to be towards the middle of the season? Is there anything that you say to them to try to direct them from your position, your post, to just give them that little bit of extra energy to finish the game?
I ask them just to give me 10 more minutes of effort. Just like if it's in the last 15, I just ask them to hold it off for that 5 minutes and then just push and just give me whatever they have left in the game. And then once the game's done, they can leave it out on the field and then they can take the next day to recover.
And that's what team sports is all about.
Yeah.
Right? Team sports is all about you guys pushing each other, being friends, being close, playing for your community. And obviously, you guys come from a pretty long distance. So it definitely was amazing. We don't get to see you guys very often, but obviously you guys made an impact on our broadcast, seeing what you accomplished. And getting back to you, Shelby, I haven't seen anything like that since I played FIFA on Xbox. That was something you might see where you get lucky, just mashing buttons, and then all of a sudden, the shot goes in. And for your family or anybody back at home who doesn't believe that you kicked the ball 35 yards and hit the top post, they can find this game at Home Team Sports TV on YouTube. Just let you know, you can go ahead and you can go ahead and get your phone out and put it on Instagram, TikTok. I don't know what else you on. I'm a little old, so I don't get on TikTok, and I like Instagram and Facebook, so that kind of tells on me a little bit. But you can be able to find that information on Home Team Sports TV. Your interviews, you guys are both very well spoken. I know you guys play against Jefferson tomorrow, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I don't know what you guys' plans are. Pizza Hut, I don't know where you're gonna go. HG Barbecue, he could probably whip you up a little bit, something real quick. But yeah, just get yourself rested for tomorrow, because I know you guys play against Jefferson, which is another tough team. So thank you guys both for coming on. These are the Catro Law players of the game, Miss Shelby Thorpe and Madison Rothwell. We will take a quick break and we will come back with the final stats. Once again, you're kicking it with the home team.
Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Juwan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Come on, Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.
And we are back for the final comments of the Catro Law post-game show, where we have the George Washington Patriots, defending state champions, with a 1-0 victory versus the Washington High School Patriots. I would like to give a shout-out to our cameramen, Dylan Smith, Kevin Brewster, for allowing us to give you this video broadcast and the video coverage. Our quality control supervisor, H.D. Franklin II, also owner of H.D.'s Barbecue and Soul Food Catering, and the man, Harry Brown, who makes this all possible, for allowing us to have this production today. Our players of the game were Shelby and Madison from George Washington High School. Also would like to give a shout out to Erica Schnabel from Washington High School. She was amazing in goal. The score, she kept the game close. She blocked 25 shots, so we definitely want to give her a shout out. To our sponsors, VFW, Post 3522, Catro Law, Cheryl Yates at ERA Realty, Quintez McDonald Gibson at Integrity Home Mortgage, Neil Powell at Down Home Insurance, and H.D. Franklin II at H.D.'s Barbecue. So what I will say is you guys are kicking it with the home team. We have our next production next Thursday, where we will have the Washington Patriots High School football team versus the Hedgesville Eagles at 7 o'clock. And we will have another broadcast tomorrow for the scrimmage of the Jefferson High School Cougars versus some Frederick County teams in Handley. So once again, thank goodness for Friday. Thank goodness for our community. You're kicking it with the home team, and peace out.
Meet Cheryl Yates at ERA Liberty Realty. With over 30 years of experience, Cheryl provides each of her clients with the best level of customer service, along with helping families with the next phase of their life. The buying and selling process comes natural to Cheryl, as her understanding of the housing market allows her the ability to answer any questions that may arise. With offices in both Jefferson and Berkeley counties, she works hard to ensure the outcome you deserve. Cheryl is the key to selling or buying your home.
Juwan is the ultimate hype guy. I love him. He's always positive. He's always pepping them up and firing them up.
Come on, Parker, work, Parker, work, Parker, work, 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 work.